So, hi everyone. Not really sure what prompted this video. It's kind of really meta, but um, feels like it needs to be said. It's interesting the world we live in right now, and I think maybe COVID, or as I like to call it, Winnie the Flu, because Xi Jinping is a tin pot despot, but that's another story. Um, but yeah, COVID or Winnie the Flu, whatever you want to call it. And by the way, calling it Winnie the Flu is not a shot at the Chinese people, it's a shot at the despot that completely crushes the lives of the wonderful Chinese people who have a massive history in the world and who have a rich history. And it's sad that the Chinese Communist Party has actually destroyed a lot of that history, a lot of that tradition. But that's sadly the nature of communism, of globalism. Destroy the four olds, and inevitably what you wind up with is four news of hell. But that's another story. I was really thinking about the way things are at the moment, about social media, about all these celebrities moving onto YouTube, etc. And it really shows how messed up our world is. One of the kids that grew up next door to my parents, um, he said when he was a teenager that what he wanted when he grew up was he wanted to be rich. And there's a lot of people that think like that. I want to be rich. I want to be famous. I want to airbrush myself. Oh, I'm going to take photos of everything, including the dinner I eat, on Instagram to make myself look really glamorous. Now, look, I've taken food shots once or twice, but I'm really proud of this job I made cooking this thing. It's awesome. Or, oh my gosh, this meal's to die for. But it's a one-off. It's not, oh, I need to make myself look good. Um, Whereas it just seems like everyone these days wants to make themselves look like a mini celebrity. Oh, I'm going to do YouTube to be rich. I'm going to do YouTube to engage in damage control, etc. And look, realistically, the people at you who listen to this, what, 40 people if I'm lucky? You're great, but this is never going to hit a huge audience. I'm on the spectrum. People on the spectrum are not people that everyone goes, oh, cute and cuddly. They look at us like we're weird. I mean, just look at the reactions I got to the very first video I posted, where people were looking at the way I was moving, the way I was talking, etc. I wasn't polished enough. I wasn't professional enough. I wasn't glamorous enough. And that's sadly where we're at. We live in a world that cares more about labels than it does about people. There should be one label that matters. One label. Human being. And yes, obviously, treat animals with compassion at the same time. Pay attention to where you're sourcing your food. I mean, I'll eat beef, but I'll eat grass-fed beef. And the where I get my beef, I know the farmer looks after the cows. This is a guy that actually had a choice between giving one cow that was sick antibiotics once because the cow actually needed them, or keeping their organic certification. And they cared so much about their livestock that they got rid of their certification. But that's the kind of heart that we don't have in society at the moment. We have this balkanizing, tribalizing society where everyone only sees labels. Everyone cares about the superficial. We have social media, but we have a very unsocial situation on social media. We're all tribalist. And moral superiority can be terrible in that regard. You look throughout history, the Spanish Inquisition, the Salem witch trials, cancel culture. If you genuinely believe you're right to the point where any action is justified, that's where evil lives. And you can look at any regime, even the one starting with N in the 1920s, and again, they believed they were saving that country. A certain triple-lettered organization that starts with K, they believed that, and they still do, that they are saving their country. You look at Marxism, you look at what the damage it's done. Oh, we're trying to save people. Oh, we care about we care about different races, different different genders, different sexes, etc. Yeah, but you suck on disability, and you suck on disability because the moment you had to genuinely look at disability, your entire intersectional hierarchy on race, gender, sex, etc. goes out the window, because suddenly your personal devil of your secular religion, that goes out the window. Because if you're forced to recognize that people with a disability can be oppressed, then suddenly cishet white males with a disability can be oppressed. And this just goes to show how much we've lost our way. I'm kind of getting off massively on a tangent here. But, who cares about how airbrushed you are if you've got a crappy heart? Who cares about how glamorous you are, how rich, how famous you are, if your soul is just tarred with sludge? Who cares about any of that? And if you're unable to look at someone else from across a political divide who might be coming at things from the best of reasons because of your own moral superiority complex, where you are so blinded to the other side that you see them as scum, that the slightest deviation from what you believe might as well be a chasm apart, and they might as well be the complete other. How's that building compassion? How's that building empathy? How's that building connections? One of the most interesting things I think about all of this situation is the social isolation that's going on. People aren't seeing each other physically. But look, realistically, it's a metaphor. Social media has reduced, and I saw this even back in the pre-social media days of message boards. People became nothing more than a username. As essentially, they may as well be a non-playable character in an RPG. That's how everyone sees everyone else. And when you can dehumanize other people, well, suddenly you can justify horrible behavior to them. The more dehumanized they are, the more horrible the behavior you can justify. And so when you start saying that someone must be a certain way based on labels, and look, sometimes stereotypes are helpful, but stereotypes can also be dangerous. Stereotypes can also blind us to people at the same time. And realistically, we may be physically isolated from one another due to COVID, but thanks to social media, thanks to the echo chambers, thanks to the balkanization, thanks also to the Overton political window. Now, the Overton window, for those who don't know, is basically where the normal center, the relative normal center of politics is. So if a society moves massively to the right, then the Overton window is way into the right. If it massively moves to the left, the Overton window's over there. A healthy society, of course, a balanced society, the Overton window is dead center. But unfortunately, what we have is a society that has gone, we hate these far right elements, and there are things that were in there that definitely needed to change. But we've shifted massively over in the other direction at the same time. And it's become just as bad in some ways. It's become worse because of how far it's shifted. But we've become tribal. We've devolved. We've become socially isolated. And COVID just became a physical manifestation in some ways of what's already here, of what's already been there for other times. Because we talk at people rather than with them. We're concerned with our own our moral superiority in a lot of cases, rather than empathy, rather than being moral. But we seem to think it's okay. We airbrush ourselves. We do jump cuts in videos or we do cuts in really smooth ways so we look polished. We make sure that the food's right. We say the right things on social media because we don't want to upset or offend the other crowd. Because we're not living, we're not interacting, we're not connecting. We're building brands. And the thing is that celebrity culture is cancer. When people say, "Oh, I want to be rich and famous," you want what? You want your entire being, your entire identity to be validated by others, and to be validated by what's in vogue at that time. And look, history tells us that that can be some pretty dark stuff. That can be some really, really dark stuff. You know, slavery, social Darwinism, eugenics, these are all things that were in vogue. And in vogue doesn't necessarily need to be dark, it can be stupid. Back when people thought, oh, smoking was trendy, it was it was healthy. Or, oh, hey, let's put radium in the water, it'll give us a nice glow. Going with the trend, it's like Agent K said in Men in Black. A person is smart, people are dumb, panicky animals, and you damn well know it. Going with the mob is never helpful. Trying to base your entire life around appealing to the mob is self-destructive and soul-destroying. You know what most celebrities are? They're meat puppets. Because most of them are actors. Or they're behind the camera. And there is a director there saying you will move a certain way, you will speak a certain way, you will sound a certain way, and you will look a certain way. Do you know what also follows all of those things? A puppet and a ventriloquist's dummy. Actors and actresses, well, regardless of what gender they identify with, etc., TV personalities, they move where they're told to move. They read auto cues, they read scripts, they react in a way a director tells them to. Often there'll be multiple cuts to get just the right reaction. Dance, little puppet, dance. Yet that's what most people want. Most people want to present an inflated image of themselves. Look how great I wish I was. Look how great I want you to think I am. Look how wonderful I want you to think I am. But are you? Let's talk about now one of the real dark parts of life, one of the real dark causes of death. Suicide. There are many reasons why people check out. But the reality is that in that situation, death is simply more palatable to living. And often people will not want to bug people. But in other cases, it's because it's just not fashionable to not be okay. It's not fashionable to be depressed. It's not fashionable to have anxiety. It's not fashionable to have post-traumatic stress disorder. It's not fashionable to have other forms of mental illness, to not be okay, to have addictions, to have vices, flaws. Those are things that airbrushing is meant to brush out. But we don't want to talk about that. Instead, we want to glamorize. We want to shadow ban. And we wonder why the world is so messed up. It really is a mess. It really is. Is there a solution? I don't know. Well, I do know. It starts with getting real. It starts with everyone getting real. Now, anyone who looks closely will notice that I've got some weird rash going on with these eyes. The other day, I was going to participate in a fun conversation with a group of friends. A friend made a funny video. Short, pithy, playful comment. I was going to post back. Then I saw this. And you'll even notice this eyebrow is a little wonky compared to this one, this eyelid. I wasn't going to do it because I didn't want to freak him out. Even I fall prey to this airbrushed culture. But how are we going to stop an epidemic of suicide where one man commits suicide every minute? And if the 5-to-1 ratio is to be believed, and that's a worldwide figure, by the way, you have one woman committing suicide every 5 to 6 minutes in this world. How are we ever going to stop that if people are airbrushed? If we're allergic to flaws, if the worst thing you can be in this world is imperfect? How? Where is the space for people to not be okay? Why isn't it popular to say, look, I work a crappy job. I'm doing the best I can. But I'm not okay. My life's dull. I had a whole heap of bills to pay. So here's my dinner, and it's a plate of baked beans on toast. But that's not glamorous. That's not how the stars live. That's not how celebrities live. But of course, the little people are just statistics, especially when they don't fit the narrative. So who cares? Because it's all about money. It's all about passive consumerism. You're nothing but a number in the system that's there to make money and consume for corporations who use celebrities like brands and then encourage everyone else to be just like them. The question is, if you're listening to this, is that you? Are you a human being, or are you a human doing? And it occurs to me that my catchphrase is actually really appropriate this time. Until next time, folks, be kind to each other. You deserve it.